The starting point for me, actually, the absolute starting point for me with writing is sleep. That's it. It's literally sleep. For some reason, everybody's talking about all the sexy topics in writing, like writing shame and writing from the body and building character. But no one ever talks about sleep. And honestly, this just kind of blows my mind. Hello, lovely people, aspiring writers, people currently writing, people wanting to write in the future, people that have already published the book, wherever you are up to in your writing journey. Welcome, and I'm so happy to have you here. Today, what I want to talk about is why your writing routine actually starts 12 hours before you sit down to write. Yes, this is true. I'm going to say it again. The writing routine does not start when you sit down at your desk to write. It starts 12 hours night before when you do or do not make a set of decisions that are either going to support or derail the writing routine that you're hoping to follow through with the following morning. So before I get into that, in case you don't know me, my name is Chloe. I'm an author and I wrote a book called The Girls, and it took me 12 years to do it. It was a long journey with multiple degrees, failures, successes, setbacks, all the things. And now I help other aspiring writers become published authors and enjoy the process in just 45 minutes a day, 5 days a week. So yeah, this is what I do for my job and I love it. And I'm also working on my second book, and some of the tips that I'm going to share with you today are things that I'm still doing right now as I'm working on this second book, right? What are the things that count when we're thinking about setting up our writing routine? The starting point for me, actually, the absolute starting point for me with writing is sleep. That's it. It's literally sleep. For some reason, everybody's talking about all the sexy topics in writing, like writing shame and writing from the body and building character. But no one ever talks about sleep. And honestly, this just kind of blows my mind, because if there's one thing in life that will either derail or enable my writing practice of a morning, it's the question of like, how did you sleep the night before? When I haven't slept well, I don't write well. When I have slept well, I write well. And so I realized this years ago in my own practice. And then when I started to build my coaching business, Write with Chloe, and also when I was teaching writing at universities and various writing centers around the countries, sleep was then one of the things that I basically help my students clean up first when they first start working with me. And then what happens is when we clean up their sleep, their writing automatically starts to become a little bit more consistent. So what I recommend you do is get an app that allows you to track your sleep so that you can initially just work out, okay, how many hours of sleep do I even need to feel good? There's like so many different numbers out there, 9, 8, 6, whatever. I think it's so different for people. I think it's so different for men versus women, all of these things. So get an app, track your sleep. You don't have to do it forever, just for a week, maybe 2, and figure out how many hours of sleep you need in order to feel good, number 1. And number 2, have a look at how much time you're spending awake in bed but not asleep, right? Because you need to then incorporate that into your sleep/writing routine. So to give you an example, for me personally, I need 7.5 hours of sleep in order to feel good. 8, great, but 7.5 is like feeling good. However, my partner finishes work at 11 o'clock at night. I go to bed at like 9. And so it means that a couple of hours into my sleep, there's this disruption, usually awake for a little bit. I mean, we try not to have like full-on conversations, but you know, there's often whatever, have a cuddle, say hello. So honestly, it ends up being like an hour and a half. I'm trying to get it down at the moment. It's a lot, but it's like an hour and a half of time that I'm in bed, but not asleep. So then when I'm working out my writing routine, from whatever time I want to write in the morning, I actually need like 9 hours before that to be in bed in order to get my 7.5 hours sleep. So figure all that out with your sleep app, and I promise you it's going to make getting up to write in the morning so much easier, like 10 million trillion times easier, I swear to you. And then one other hack with that is like being consistent with your sleep routine. Can't just like, well, I mean, I guess you can, but it's probably not going to work as well. Just be like, oh, I need to be in bed for 9 hours. Tonight it'll be midnight to 9 a.m. and then tomorrow it'll be like 9 p.m. to whatever. Your body, like, it wants to be trained, right? And you can train it when you want it to fall asleep and wake up. But this requires like a training period for your body, but then it also requires consistency consistency, so you know your body knows what you want from it, right? And so it's important that when you're figuring out your sleep, you're looking at all three of those things, right? How much sleep you need to feel good, how much extra time you need to allocate for when you'll be kind of like in bed but awake, and then what kind of window is good for your routine to make it a consistent sleep and wake time. I mean, if you just turn the podcast off now and only like implemented that one strategy, your writing would already be so much better and so much easier, I promise you. But I'm going to share a few more other tips. The second one is make sure your writing desk is clean and tidy the night before you sit down and write. Everyone's like, oh, I want to watch Home and Away or Maths or I don't know, whatever it is people watch these days. It'll be fine. It'll take me 2 minutes. I'll just clean my desk when I get up in the morning quickly before I write. Like, no, you won't. You'll quickly clean your desk and then you'll quickly decide to do the dishes, and then it will quickly be like 2 hours later and you've done like a whole spring clean, but you haven't written anything. Like, we know how this goes. So stop doing it, literally. Just tidy your desk the night before, come up with like a 3 or 4 step evening routine that is basically you preparing yourself to write the following morning. Doesn't have to take long. It's like, get your banana out, put the coffee mug next to the coffee, clean your desk, whatever it is, right? Do it all the night before, do it a few days in a row, and then your body will just start to remember it. And combine those things with like proper sleep, it's going to be so much easier to get up and write in the morning. Another tip is having your morning water set up the night before. Like anything that you need in the morning, such as your banana or your water or your coffee or whatever it is, like set it up the night before. I know that this can maybe sound silly, and I'm sure there's some people listening whose brains is like saying, oh my God, this is over the top. Like, do we really need to do all of that? If your brain is telling you those things, I invite you to ask yourself, how has that been working for you so far? Have you actually been consistent with your writing? And if the answer is no, that's totally okay, totally normal. Maybe it's worth not just trying some of these strategies, but actually trying them for several days in a row before you write them off as silly or meaningless, right? And then the last one that I do is I always store my computer and glasses in the same spot, right? In the same spot. Particularly if you live with other people, maybe they think they're helping by tidying things, blah, blah, blah. And then you've got to like find your glasses in the morning. Like, it's just introducing extra friction where there doesn't have to be any friction into your morning writing routine. Just have a spot. You yourself always put your computer and glasses back there. That's it. Maybe you can even explain to your partner what you're doing so they're not going to move it. But ideally you would put it in a spot where no one's going to need to move it, right? And then you can just easily find it in the morning. So just a few little tricks to help you start to understand that your writing routine starts the night before you sit down to write. Does not start the moment you sit down at your desk. And then obviously the big one is when there is occasionally things that get in the way, like there have been things left on your desk, or there are dishes in the sink, just not letting that derail you and still choosing to do your writing first before anything else. Oh, actually, I just thought of one other thing, which is pretty massive, that you can also do the night before, or you could even just set this up using an app so it's on a schedule. Making sure your phone and your computer are on like do not disturb mode so that you're not seeing notifications on your phone in the morning before you write. God forbid emails, definitely not emails, right? So I mean, even you can have all those notifications turned off all the time, but if you don't, that's fine. You can just get an app that doesn't let you check those things, or that like hides them from your home screen and your computer until say 9 a.m. each morning, and then automatically they'll just be blocked until 9 a.m. right? Until after you finish your writing. So I hope that helps. And if you want more tips like this about how to form a consistent and pleasurable writing practice, you can check out my Instagram, write_with_Chloe. And I've also got a free 3-part video sequence about how to write 10,000 words in 30 days. So you can check out the link below. And lastly, if you've gained anything from this podcast, I would love, love, love it if you could pop a review if you're listening to this as a podcast, or drop a comment below if you're listening to this on YouTube. Sending love, and I'll see you next episode. Bye.